everyone, I'm here at Jake Ryan's property. He owns 3 Ryans. We're about to interview him on his practices, why they have a look at his chicken, have a look at his farm, and his hopefully talk about some regen practices and what he thinks about them.
That's the start. So originally when I was back at uni, I was writing, it was very, I suppose, conventional looking.
Yeah.
So I was studying agribusiness at Curtin University. It was a really good course. I actually really enjoyed it, learned a lot from it. Yeah. But it was very conventional.
Yep.
So I used to get bored and writing the essays and all that, and I suppose you went to uni and you know all about it. Sit in the library, write an essay, and start bloody Googling stuff. And I started to come across all these farmers that were doing these different things. So like your Joel Saladin, Gary Zimmer, John Kempf, all these Jerry Bonetti, all these big names, I suppose, in America that were, I suppose, doing things a little bit different. Mm-hmm. So I started looking into it and saying, there's actually probably a different way of producing food. Mm-hmm. So I came back to the farm. At the time, I was planning on going to get a job and doing something else, but while I was at uni, my dad and my uncle split the farm up. Yep. So I came back to give Dad a hand, and I suppose my first 12 months on the farm, I just sort of sat back and just learnt the ropes, I suppose, and then slowly started implementing these regenerative practices, I suppose you call them. At the time, I didn't really think of them as that. It was just a different practice. Yeah. So we started off, when we split the farm up, we were just veggies, sheep and cows. When we split the farm, we had I think we got 700 sheep, 30 odd cows, and we're doing the veggies. Mm-hmm. We then obviously bought the chook business, like I was saying. Started out with 800 chooks, and then as demand for our product grew and we got a little bit better at it, we expanded up to, we're now at that 4,500 bird number, depending on time of year and what caravans we got in the cycle. And then we started looking at different grazing management.
And then earlier you talked about increasing demand for your products.
Yes.
Is that because you are a regenerative farmer, or are there other considerations when you say increasing demand?
I think that is, but I think telling a story. People like a story. So you have a point of difference at the other end. So our sheep and our cows, they get shandied in with all the other cows and sheep. Okay. They get sold we tried to do direct marketing to consumers and butcher shops, but the way beef and lamb prices are at the moment, people can't afford to spend extra 10% on the current market prices to buy a premium cut. Well, some people can, and some people do, but it's not enough to sustain that sort of business. Yep. So we made the call to, because it's extra work for us, we made the call just to put them back into the market at Walsh's, Wamco, all these big wholesalers of lamb and beef. So, but in terms of cauliflowers and broccoli and eggs and all our cabbage products, I think the demand is definitely going up. So, because we're looking at, I suppose, these regenerative practices, we're looking at, I suppose, reducing our chemical use in terms of insecticides and fungicide. My fiance and the mum. So, so we're looking at, obviously reducing those pesticide uses and increasing mineral nutrition. Yeah. So I'll probably touch on that. So in terms of pasture and veggies, we have switched to pretty much a full foliar program. So we're looking at you look at Australian soils, they're pretty depleted in most minerals. So, and agriculture for the last 100 years has looked at 3 elements, M, P and K, so nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. So on our pastures, we almost put no nitrogen on. If a plant's deficient in nitrogen, we'll put it on, but most of the time, pasture doesn't need nitrogen. We focus more on the trace minerals, so like your manganese, your zinc, your copper, cobalt, selenium, molybdenum, all these different boron, calcium, like all these elements that the soils over time have been, I suppose, mined off through current agricultural practices and whatnot. So
let's talk about linking regenerative practices with nutritionally dense food.
Yep.
Do you know of any studies? Do you notice anything about your produce?
So I think when people go down, because regenerative is such a broad subject, like everyone's opinion on regenerative is different. Yeah. And I suppose our way of looking at it is to produce as much nutrition in our plants, in our produce as possible. In sink carbon in the soil and look at the whole system as a whole ecosystem kind of thing. So where other people, I think they take it as regenerative is organic. I mean, I follow a lot of things on Facebook and see someone say, oh, I had to use a herbicide, and all the comments are criticising them for using herbicide, but it's like, regenerative isn't organic.
Yep.
Like, it's like, you got to earn the right to drop those chemical uses first. So you got to have the system in a place where you can start to lower your fungicides, your insecticides. You got the plant's health, the immune system, the plant rights before you start dropping these things back. So I think a lot of people think chemical fertilizers, so your trace minerals and all that, as a negative because the plant's getting fed it. Why should it send out root exudates to the microbes in the soil to harvest these things? But if your soil's deficient, if we do a soil test here and there's undetectable levels of selenium and cobalt, so if you don't put it on, the plant is going to send a message out to the microbes, but the microbes can't find it because it's not there.
Yeah.
So if your soil's deficient in it, then it's going to be harder for those microbes to harvest those minerals. So we go with a foliar, we cut out the soil compartment of it, and we spray it through the leaf. So we can take a plant from a bricks of 7 to a bricks of 20 in one foliar spray.
Okay. Wow.
So, and like I was saying before, is a measure of sugar, is a measure of carbon. So a plant will send half its sugar through its roots, and half of that half, so say it's sending 10 grams or whatnot of sugar, 5 of that is going to go out to the microbes to feed them. So the higher your bricks, the more sugar it has to feed that biology and sink carbon in the ground. So, that's my taking of it. Where other people will probably go towards I'll send us some compost teas out and some biostimulants.
Yep.
But I don't think it addresses the issue of the lack of mineral nutrition in the soil or mineral nutrition in that plant. So I suppose that's my take on it. I'm a mineral guy. I like minerals.
Okay.
And I think they're very important for just general health all around.
Yeah. Thank you for showing us around. It's just so amazing what you're doing here. As you probably know, all these big food companies, the Nestle, PepsiCo, General Mills, they're massive.
Yep.
Massive turnover, and they're making commitments to regenerative agriculture as a pathway towards achieving their greenhouse gas emissions.
Yep.
Now, what do you think about that?
Honestly, I think it's a good thing. So, I think you look at carbon dioxide levels in the atmosphere, and we need to be doing something very soon. I think in the IPCC reports, I think all 5 scenarios gave us a 1.5 degree increase, best case and worst case scenario. So it needs to happen. So although a lot of people probably don't feel comfortable with these big companies starting to come in, I think the main concern is that they will devalue the whole idea of it. So you look at organics, I think since the big companies have gotten into it, it's changed from what its original goal was. All of a sudden, organic started off as no chemicals. Now it is organically certified chemicals, and so you buy an organic piece of food, it's not chemical free. You actually need to look for chemical free. So a lot of chemicals have been certified as organic because supposedly they can occur in nature. But I suppose it's probably a bad example, but I could spray my crops with snake venom. It's natural, it's organic, but it's going to kill you. Doesn't mean it's good for you, kind of thing. So I think organic has lost a lot of its trust with consumers for that reason. And I think you can grow organic in greenhouse hydroponics. I mean, that is the most unorganic thing I can ever think of. You're growing in a shed in water, not soil. Unnatural. Unnatural. And you're feeding them probably limited diets. They haven't got the chance to make that association with microbes and all the different things they do in the soil because they're grown in this artificial light. And you see it at the other end with lack of shelf life. So that is definitely, I think that is a concern. But I suppose I think the consumers has to do their research and find the farmers that are doing the right thing Like, look at their Facebook, their Instagram, give them a call, go
Yeah.
see them,
Yeah.
and learn where your food's coming from. So
Yeah.
I think a lot of like the IGAs, the smaller green grocers, are starting to advertise the farmers that they're getting the produce off, so that you can go back and see where it's coming from. So I think it's that trust, that transparency. Whereas like, I think the big food companies will probably lack that, and they will exploit the whole regenerative agriculture. But if they can start doing the right thing and start doing this sequestering the carbon, and I think you're not going to get the carbon emissions without reducing your carbon emissions to prove yourself net zero without proving you're sequestering carbon on of these big corporate farms. So they're going to have to do most things right to get the system to work, to sink carbon, so they can get the carbon credit to offset the rest of it. But I think the bigger issue is we need to just stop putting the carbon dioxide up there to start off with. Like, as soon as it goes up there, it's starting to cause damage. So if they can just reduce their emission, not offset it, but reduce the emission, it'd be a far better solution to the problem than actually just offsetting it.
Yeah, I think they see regenerative agriculture as part of their way to reduce rather than just buying carbon offsets.
Yes.
Which probably they would, you know, to supplement the emissions they have.
I can imagine they're probably going to be more interested in offsetting than they would be in reducing. Which I think is more of a problem. Like, we need to stop emitting, pretty much. Like, that's the whole issue at the end of the day, is the emission of carbon dioxide.
Well, you said earlier about connecting the consumers with the farmers, and I think what you guys are doing, especially younger generation, using Instagram, using Facebook, is so important. And the agritourism you run here, and I truly believe that, you know, when you see where your food comes from, you go back and you make conscious choices when you at the supermarket. So I would say congratulations on doing that. Your Instagram account is amazing. We'll link
thank
up
you very
to
much.
You, and I want to say thank you for having us in this in your paddock and your property. So yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you for coming down. It's been really good, really enjoyable experience.
Excellent. In the previous video with Jake, we heard him talk about how powerful consumers are and how consumers drive what farmers do. So in this video, he talked about the need for consumers to educate themselves on where their food comes from, how it's grown and why it's grown that way, and how that could actually change and make the food system more regenerative. So thank you so much to Jake, who I believe is telling his story really well through his Instagram and Facebook pages. So if you're interested to find out where your food comes from, go to Jake's Facebook page and Instagram page and follow 3 Ryans. So I've got the information here on this slide. I've also included information about my Churchill Fellowship on this slide, and I want to thank everyone for watching.